everybody. Welcome to Tektime, the show based on technology and the people that drive it. My name is Ash, and I'll be your guide for this fantastic journey of discovery and enlightenment as we try and smash the shackles of ignorance and bring technology from the darkness into the light. And as per normal, I've got my regular guys online to give me a hand and talk about all things tech. We have got G-Money there in the nerve center of Tektime Live. Good evening there, G-Money.
Hey, hello. How's everybody?
Good. Thanks for coming on again. Thanks for getting this all sorted out.
That's all right.
And we've also got a ZomBE online there as well. Are you there, ZomBE?
I am indeed. Good evening and welcome to 2014.
Yeah, 2014. I forgot about that. It happened so fast, didn't it?
Yeah. Just like
one minute it was 2013. I was buying Christmas presents. The next minute, bang, I'm back at work again.
In a burst of fireworks.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of money in between as well. That's how it works, isn't it? For
now
Christmas?
you got to work and pay back all that stuff.
Yeah. So look, folks, if you haven't caught our show before or you're new to the whole business, we are running this live via Skype. People are joining us, and if you missed it or you can't hang around for the whole show, we're going to put this on YouTube as well as having it nested on the Tektime website. So what we're going to talk about now, we're just going to throw straight to G-Money, who's been catching up with the latest on the CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show over in the States. So G-Money, can you give us a couple of, for people who haven't caught up on it, give us your thoughts on what was hot and what wasn't.
Yeah, well, I think this year was all about the 4K TV, UltraHD. That was all over the place. And the other thing that came about was curved TV. So Samsung and LG just did the because we can kind of thing and said, hey, we can make curved TV. Let's do it.
Yeah, curved TV. So,
yeah, well, 3D is dead in a way, right? So 3D is not really, no one's talking about it anymore. So they got to talk about something.
Yeah, but that's interesting you said 3D is dead, because I know ZomBE just moved into the 21st century, or sorry, 22nd century, or a century anyway, coming from analog TV to digital television, and you got 3D there, ZomBE, and your impressions of 3D?
Yeah, well, it's certainly interesting, definitely a bit different, not something I use every day, but it's been good to watch a couple of movies in 3D and get that extra effect, but yeah, I certainly do see it as a bit more of a gimmick rather than something I would continuously be using.
Yeah, but if you look at a couple of years ago, there's ZomBE and G-Money, that was it. 3D was it. If you didn't have a 3D TV, they would drum you out of business. And look how quickly it has turned. Or what the most important thing is, there hasn't been the public uptake of that. They've led us to the water, and we have refused to drink.
Well, no one wanted to buy any of the glasses, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly a catch when you've got to wear the glasses, either active or passive, to watch your 3D content. Obviously, I used to have, for those that remember way back when, a 3D monitor for my gaming PC.
Correct.
And again, it was a good gimmick and great to do a couple of things 3D and go, oh, wow, that's nice. But for hours and hours on end of gaming, it just wasn't really there.
No.
So,
it's just
yeah.
Get
so
headaches.
sorry there, ZomBE. So G-Money, shall we put a cross next to 3D, and let's talk about 4K then. So what was hot about 4K in CES?
Well, it was interesting enough. You saw some affordable 4K TVs, like, well, at least displays, maybe not some TVs, but Dell announced a sub $1,000 US 4K monitor, and they actually came out to be about $699 is what they're retailing for. And also, that's for a 28-inch 4K. And Lenovo Asus also rolled out something, a couple of them as well, 28-inch 4K panels, and they're looking to be around $799. So, 4K isn't completely out of reach to some degree. Although, if you're a gamer, you might be a little bit disappointed because at 4K they can only get 30 hertz out of the screen, so it's not fast enough for gameplay. So, and in order for you to get like 60 hertz down, you'll have to drop your monitor down to 1080p. So why would you buy that for?
Well, look, a definition for those that don't know what 4K TVs, this is what 3D was supposed to be, or the next big thing is basically a TV, a big screen TV that has a resolution of up to 4,000. And I think, what's the standard there, G-Money, for resolution?
Well, let's see, what is it? It's 3840 by 2160.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking
And
at. Yeah.
the normal ones now is 1080p. Is that correct, ZomBE?
Yep. A lot of the usual TVs now are the 1080p.
Yeah.
So
So looking at something about 4 times as bright and as colorful as you've got now. And I think it's got, it comes down, it has 8,000 pixels as well, which is a lot higher than some of the other TVs that we have at the moment. So that's what we're talking about. This is the next generation of TVs. Now, are these the curved screens, G-Money, or not curved screens?
Well, these aren't the curved ones. The curved ones are from Samsung and LG, and they are very, very pricey. And actually, in order for you to get a really good experience from a curved one, you're looking at maybe about 100-inch screen. These things run about $7,000 at least, you know. So, you know, so Samsung's and LG both have been showcasing those things and using OLED. So they're OLED monitors, and the thing with OLEDs, they can be thinner, they run less power, so they're more power efficient. That's what's cool about those. Samsung actually did one that if you can't decide whether you want a curve or a flat, you at a push of a button, it will actually bend either way. So it's kind of interesting. So the screen will actually warp itself and turn into a curved screen. So that's kind of interesting. Apparently Nick's actually seen one. He said it actually looks pretty cool, but I think the cool effect is only present when you're actually in front of the TV. So can you imagine if you're in a curve, sitting in front of a curved TV, it's probably fine. But if you're very far to the edge, you'll find that one part you probably won't see very well, and then the other side warps around.
Yeah,
So
you
that's
have to be
very
almost
strange.
dead in front all the time. But in most times you do sit, when you're watching TV, you do sit directly in front of it. Most of us won't have 5 or 6 people sitting around a TV. And I think the big thing that that these curved TVs do is that if you are sitting in front of them in the real sweet spot, you get that depth perception without having to wear the glasses, which is a big thing for a lot of people like yourself there, ZomBE.
yeah, that's it. And I know I did see some years back some of at that stage they were just like prototype TVs, 3D without needing the glasses. But again, you had to be pretty much in the sweet spot of the screen. So if there's a large family all spread out and trying to watch it, not so much. We're not at holodeck territory yet.
Yet we'll get there, ZomBE. I think we might not be in our lifetime, but you never know. Technology changes that fast. So, G-Money, just for you. So is this a fad or is this the real deal? Because I mean, there's a few people that have raised a few concerns about these big screen 4K TVs.
I think it's going to be the wave because Ultra HD is really where it's being pushed, and a lot of content providers are starting to really look at delivering 4K. There's a new standard that's being developed called the highly efficient or high efficiency video codec, so HEVC. You'll probably be hearing more of it, but it's a compression standard that's going to deal with Ultra HD and be able to actually stream Ultra HD to you. So that's being developed, and you should probably see it within the next year or two. Right now, it's being pushed mostly to high-end studios right now.
Because I mean, the 4K standard is basically what the cinemas are putting their movies out now. That's correct there, ZomBE?
Yeah, some of them are. They're starting to move that way. Although, having said that, there have even been some of the, I believe, the US sports channels that have actually dropped their high definition broadcasts because there just wasn't consumer uptake on those channels. So that will be interesting to see. Obviously, for these businesses, it's going to come down to us, the consumer. And it might be fine to have all these whiz-bang capabilities, but if no one actually uses them, then it's going to be like, well, what are we using it for? Obviously, a lot of us gamers will like it because the games should look pretty good once they get the refresh rates up there.
Yeah, good point. So how you've just moved across from analog television just before the death when they turned the signal off there. ZomBE, one of the last ones to jump ship. How's your experience going from, a small screen TV to a brand new high definition 3D TV?
It's been fantastic, really good to go from that smaller format to the larger screen, especially for movies and all that sort of thing now. No more little black bars top and bottom of my screen anymore. and even just oh wow, there are actually this many channels now.
Yeah.
Was good, but now it just seems like more channels of nothing to watch.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well, sorry, go on.
yeah. Hang on one sec.
And you say, well, the interesting thing about this is that what ZomBE just touched on there, it's all about content. And that's one thing which is going to be Achilles heel currently for the 4K TVs is there is almost content is almost non-existent. There's no Blu-ray. It's not Blu-ray. There's nothing on TV, anything like that. So there is so little things that you can actually see in the true 4K in the 4K format. So something where you can get the best out of the TV. You're almost just left with promo discs that the big TV manufacturers will come out. I think there's been a couple of trials for a couple of Premier League soccer matches. They tried in 4K, and they also tried Wimbledon in 4K. But that was just them testing the waters. You know what I mean? And you can't see this getting push really hard unless it's that we guys get behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, and
that's
also,
right.
and also, you know, everybody's bandwidth has to catch up too as well.
Yeah.
So those kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was pretty big. One of the huge things out of CES. Other things are wearables and some 3D printing. So maybe down the future we'll be seeing a lot of those coming up. Wearables definitely. Nothing from Apple, but definitely a lot of things like watches and glasses. And Epson's got this ugly, like a smart glass thing going on. It's like nothing on Google's thing, but yeah, they're trying to get into the old smart wearables market as well.
Yeah, well, look, when I followed the CES, there was a lot of wearable stuff, and the printing definitely came along as well. The 3D printing. For people that don't know what 3D printing is, you can basically print a plate, you can print your pasta, you can print various things out there. I described it just off air there to a ZomBE. It's like when they were showing how you can print out your pasta into different shapes and stuff, it just looked like a printer with a piping gun connected to it, so you're just squeezing out your pasta. That right there, ZomBE?
Yeah, some of the early models and that were certainly different, but now obviously they're going in leaps and bounds, and I hear they've got some of the latest 3D printers actually able to print in metal rather than just the old plastic type polymers and things like that. So it's certainly interesting where it's all leading and what the potential will be.
Yeah. So, ZomBE, a question you without notice: if you had a choice between the two, would you take the 3D or the three wearable technology, 3D printing, or 4K TVs? Which one do you reckon is going to be the big winner out of those three?
I would say, as a consumer device, initially, I reckon the 3D printing will probably have the largest uptake. The wearables will certainly be. I don't know if a gimmick is the right word.
Yeah, that's the right word.
Yeah, I can just see, certain sporting brands, instead of having their logos just static there, are going to have funky moving logos all over you're going, great. So I'm a walking advertising billboard now. But and I also think the 3D printers, once they get a bit more market penetration, will actually be a bit more at a price level that's easy for the general consumer.
Yeah. And your thoughts there, G-Money?
Personally, I think the wearables are going to be hot. I think wearables will be more of a sort of a telemetry thing for, just like how a race car, they're sending feedback on what the car's doing. I think for wearables, it's more like things that are on your wrist or whatever that's maybe sending you information on what's going on in terms of maybe notifications or, in fact, Pebble, which is one of the early smartwatches and probably one of the more successful ones that's out there. They're not the best smartwatch that's there, but they're out there, and people like Mercedes announced that they're actually developing an app that will work alongside with Pebble. So as you're driving, you might be being sent alerts on maybe approaching objects or maybe issues that might be a road hazard or whatever it is. But the way the Pebble works, I actually have one here, but it vibrates, so there actually is no sound that you hear from it. You just get little vibrations that's being sent, which is pretty good because it's sort of inobtrusive, so you get little you don't have to you don't have to lay your phone down right on the table because you can't hear, because the room's too loud. So you got to see if the phone's ringing or something like that. If you have the watch, it just vibrates and something's going on. You could then see if it's an important message, and then maybe you could decide whether you want to take it or not.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So those kind of things. I think wearables. Oh, who's actually getting into wearables as well is Razer. Razer that makes a lot of gaming devices.
Yeah,
so
yeah, high-end gaming. Yep.
So they're doing a thing that's kind of like a Fitbit, sort of a sports thing, like a Nike Fuel, but it also does like other notifications too. So they're also getting into the whole wearables thing.
Yeah, and just one we haven't mentioned, which is probably going to dwarf everything else over there, is going to be Google Glass. And I think we've got a couple of guys talking about it here online. I think that wearable is just going to take off. And I think that's what we're going to see nowadays, where your privacy is going to be impeded upon a lot more than it used to be.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're going to see more of that, definitely.
Yeah. Final thoughts on that, ZomBE?
Yeah, well, it'll certainly be interesting to see what the future holds. Obviously, we even had was it the tourist the other day walking off St Kilda Pier whilst trying to send a text message or something like that. So I'm just wondering what the mischief with wearables was or will be. Obviously, at least for some of them, at least you should be able to see what's in front of you. But it'll certainly be interesting to see how these sort of things impact society and the way we interact with one another and our environment.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point there, ZomBE. I think sometimes it's good to disconnect as well. I mean, you just, as I said, too much information sometimes. You're almost getting overloaded over here. And I said, and a lot of people can't multitask, especially males can't multitask as well as females. And if you're getting landmarks information at one page and you're looking at St Kilda Pier or you're walking across Flinders Street Station, there could be a tram coming right past you, but you're getting information about when the building was built and the history behind it.
And suddenly there's a rhino on a skateboard bearing down on you.
Yes. We'll have to explore that at some other stage. Or you could have the Stoke House that just caught on fire just recently. That was probably the chef who probably had Google Glass on or something. He was looking at the recipe on his iPad instead of watching. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Thanks. ZomBE's going to disappear. He's got some other stuff to do, but myself and G-Money will still be around. We've got Big Nick on standby, and we've also got Michael McKinnon from AVG coming up next. So you've still got a bumper show to go. You guys stay with us. We're going to be right back the other side of this break. Thanks, ZomBE, for joining us.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time. All right, don't go away, folks. We're going to be right back.
Hello, and welcome to Tektime.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tektime, the show based on technology and the people that drive it. My name is Ash, and I'll be your guide on this fantastic journey of discovery and enlightenment as we try and smash the shackles of ignorance and bring the darkness from the light. And I always try and bring you guys trends 10 years in the area, and today is no different. I have got Michael McKinnon from AVG with me online, or on video actually, for a change. First time ever. Good afternoon, Michael. How are you?
I'm very well, Ash. How are you?
Good. Thanks for trying out this new format with us.
Oh, no problem. It's a pleasure to be here smashing the shackles with you once again.
Now, for people that hasn't caught our award-winning podcast there, Michael, what's your role at AVG?
I'm security advisor for AVG Technologies AU here in Australia and New Zealand, so representing the AVG brand as a media spokesperson. And also really getting the awareness out there in terms of security and privacy issues that we all need to face.
Yes. And AVG is the one that has one part of it is they have the free antivirus software, isn't it? That's the company we're talking about? That's
right. So AVG, as a brand, we're probably most recognised for our free antivirus software, which is a huge part of our business, and we have other solutions as well for private business and paid users as well.
Yeah, and you guys are based in Australia and around the world, or where's your headquarters there, Michael?
That's right. Well, I'm in Melbourne, and we have offices all over the world. So we're a global company, and we've got over 170 million users worldwide.
Yeah. So look, we got you on for a couple of things here. We try to cram as much in as possible so we can inform all our viewers over there. Okay, the first thing is I'm going to talk about, what does being connected mean?
Being connected, well, we live in a connected world. So one of the things that has really become a phenomena in the way we use technology is with mobile devices. So we've got smartphones, we've got tablets, and they're really, some interesting ways in how society is changing in the way it's using these devices. And of course, there are security and privacy implications in that as well.
So being basically online all the time, which is either a good thing or a bad thing for some of us.
Yeah, exactly. And connectedness is not just about the technology, it's also about socially how we connect as well, through the technology.
Yeah. So now you guys just did a survey which actually caught my eye about connected men. Now, what interesting results did you get out of that there, Michael?
Yeah, so we did some survey on just over 1,000 users and looked at how they're using technology, and we looked at specifically men and women, and sort of identified some of the differences in the way each of the sexes are using mobile devices. And some of the research we had around men was quite fascinating. Probably one of the ones that really stood out was that men in our survey admitted that they were 2.5 times more likely to have content on their mobile devices that they would not show to their children, that's not appropriate for children. So some really interesting research around that. There's also some stats around partners in long-term relationships reading each other's text messages, either with or without their partner's consent, and how many of the partners actually had access to their partner's text messages and messages as well. So some really interesting stats around there. It was about 23% of men have access to their partner's text messages, for example.
Well, when they're reading it, are they doing it with you said without their permission or with their permission?
Yeah, there was about 20 to 23% of men admitted to reading their partner's text messages, and then there were another about 17% who actually said they already had access. So there's some issues around privacy, obviously, in relationships about people, feeling that perhaps the messages on their mobile phone are private to them only, or that they're able to share that within their own relationship.
So is there a blurring of the lines between work and relaxing now? Because, I mean, if you're going to be connected all the time, especially if you've got a work device, I mean, you are really connected to your business all the time, aren't you?
Absolutely. The blurring of the lines now between work and home are really it's just become such a strange issue now, because it's a productivity issue for businesses, I think, that works in their favour often, because employees are going home at night with potentially the company's email on their mobile devices, which means they're actually responding to emails out of hours, which may in fact work in the favour of the employer. So there's that kind of thing happening, but maybe it's also an issue that we're not carving out enough personal, private time for ourselves, and we're kind of burdened with also having access to that information, which is work based, and perhaps we shouldn't be doing that. But of course, some of our research showed around 2/3 of men and women suggesting that they're spending more than an hour each night on their smartphones in the lounge room. And I know this myself. My wife sits on the couch while we're watching movies, and she's doing stuff on her iPad. She's playing Candy Crush or interacting with friends on Facebook. I think that tablets have just become this extra device now that we just use while we're watching TV. It's it's a real adjunct now to our everyday lives.
Well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, because connectivity can work both ways. You're talking about the other side where you could potentially burn out a lot quicker because you're working so long and and you're spending so much time with your work devices. And now the other side of that is you're social. You can talk to your friends and family all from the comfort of your couch.
Yeah, look, I think that there's two sides to this coin. There are two different ways of looking at it, either as good or bad. One of the things that often disturbs me as a father of 2 young boys is I'll go out to a play centre or something with my boys, and I'll notice other parents who seem to spend more time on their smartphone or tablet than they do interacting with their own children. So, I think we have to look at the issues that this causes with sometimes our ability to, focus our attention on things that really should be more important than using these devices. So there are definitely, situations where we need to look at moderating how we use these devices as much as we do.
Yeah, I think the key word we're looking there, if you do have your kids around, it's active parenting.
Absolutely.
Updating your Facebook status is not active parenting.
That's right. Absolutely. And I must say, Santa actually was generous, and both of our boys received iPads this Christmas. So now as a whole family, we're all on our tablets.
Oh, so you can send each other emails now instead of talking.
Actually, yeah, my oldest boy's just started using iMessage on his iPad, and so he's messaging me throughout the day with all sorts of bizarre misspellings of things.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. Something to look forward to there, Michael. Is it going to get better or is it going to get worse, you think?
It's only going to get worse. No.
Well, look, that's a good segue into our other thing there, privacy. You know, privacy is a real big issue at the moment. The whole Snowden thing has brought that online as well with, you know, what people get from us and what information we give up. And I mean, that's the thing is we give up a lot of information we don't need to. And I tell this to people all the time. Why are you telling them that? They don't need to know.
Yep, absolutely. I think that privacy is quite a confusing topic because if we talked about cybercrime or general kind of information security, we tend to have common goals, which is to reduce the prevalence of those crimes happening, and we all tend to focus on the same endpoint. The problem with privacy is that we all have this different understanding of what we think privacy is. And so the way I kind of look at it is there are really two halves to what's going on. We've got the issue with the Edward Snowden and NSA revelations, which are really about government and state-based surveillance that we really don't have terribly too much control over. And then we've got this other side of privacy, which really encompasses our use of how we're using various different social media platforms, for example, or even interacting on the internet and being tracked by advertisers and advertising networks. So there's really these two halves to what's going on. And I think that, you know, what I really hope we can get to is where we can start to have some conversation around separating those two halves and looking at each of them objectively. And I think, fortunately, you know, the surveillance thing, I try not to get too involved in because there's really a lot of policy, government stuff that's happening there. In terms of us using the internet, yeah, absolutely. There's the great thing is there's a lot of things we can do technologically to actually stop people spying on us, whether it's, you know, watching how tracking cookies are being used or, you know, using software that's going to create, you know, better privacy settings for you and all these sorts of things that you can do. So there's still a lot we can control. I agree, though, that there are still a lot of people who are sharing a lot of information that they perhaps don't need to.
Yeah. But, I mean, and a classic example is your social networking site. You can find out so much about a person and you don't even know them. Or I mean, imagine that going to their front door and knocking on their door and asking them all those questions. You know, you get the door slammed in your face, but it seems as soon as it goes online, you know, people's care just seem to go out of the window.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is too that people, I don't think, understand how vulnerable they can make themselves by keeping a social media profile that's completely open to everyone. And there have been cases, for example, with dating websites and romance fraud scams where we've seen people with Facebook profiles where they haven't taken the necessary care to be able to lock that Facebook profile down. And what's happened is scammers have come along and stolen their identity, created identities using that person's photo and name and details on a dating website and then pretended to be that person and then have scammed other people. So, you know, there's a whole lot of these sort of frauds and things that are going on that people aren't necessarily always aware of. And then the issue we've got is that a lot of the social media platforms have evolved, you know, so quickly over time. Facebook is, you know, obviously the prime example here, where you may have signed up to Facebook, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, and you haven't really gone back and looked at those privacy settings since. A lot has changed since then. So we really encourage people, you know, get back to having a look at how that works, or use a tool that you can that can help you do that.
Yeah, that's a great point there. I think everyone who's watching this, maybe after we've finished watching this video, don't leave yet. Go and check your social networking privacy settings and see what you can see or what others can see about you anyway. I think it's a great little tip there. Thanks for that, Michael.
No problem. We actually have a site that people can go to, which is privacyfix.com, which will give people the option to really easily set a lot of the privacy settings that they should be looking at.
Yeah, and there's like a template they can use, isn't it, Michael?
Yes, that's right. There's actually, we have an app on iOS, iPhone, iPad, and we also have an app for Android. And if you go to privacyfix.com, you can install the app from there, or you can even use it on the web browser as well.
Now, you mentioned tracking before. Okay, what's the end game in tracking? Is it all about making us buy things? I mean, is that what it's all about? We're talking about legitimate businesses here, okay? With your tracking and your preferences and your privacy and stuff like that. What are they after?
Essentially, it's a monetization game. So pretty much all of what we see happen on the internet with tracking is at some point commerce related. And so the idea here is that if you're a big business and you're running an e-commerce website, you want to be able to optimize the visitors that are visiting your website so that they can come back and hopefully purchase from you. And all of this technology has come into play, not only for the benefit of e-commerce site owners, but also for affiliates. And these are, of course, third parties that are out there marketing other products. I mean, this is, unfortunately what also drives a lot of spam to occur, where we've still got Viagra emails and all kinds of things floating around, where we've got advertisers who are still or affiliate marketers who are still making money by sending these spam emails out and having people respond and then ultimately purchase. And of course, it just ends up becoming a numbers game. If they can email millions of people, they're just hoping that a small percentage of that will respond.
Yeah, so it's all about, as you said, monetizing. That's the whole idea behind it. Besides, there's also criminality that goes along with the bad guys who are taking over your machines and doing all sort of fraudulent things.
Well,
but
of course,
for legitimate businesses, it's just driving people to their websites and then hopefully turning that into a sale. That's the end game. Michael? That's
essentially the end game. And of course, the danger of what happens with what we refer to as black hat SEO, which is kind of where the criminals start to get involved, is they start to really push the technology beyond how a reasonable, company or business should be using it, and they really start to go very aggressively to try and, maximize their profits. And of course, all that really does is just annoys all of us, because we just have our inboxes flooded with messages and all sorts of things. But to give you a quick example of the way tracking can work is, and I'm sure everyone will have seen this, if you visit a website, perhaps just once, and then all of a sudden you are on YouTube and you see an ad pop up. And it just happens to be that same business, or you visit a different website and all of a sudden the ads that are on that website are referring to the site that you had seen just earlier in the day, or perhaps even last week. And of course, what's happening is a cookie is being set on your browser and with a unique identifier, which is flagging you to an ad network, which is then customizing and optimizing those ads. And of course, this is of some concern to people who don't particularly want third parties to know what their browsing history are. These ad networks are very extensive, and look, a lot of them are quite legitimate companies. They're doing everything within the confines of common legal practice, but there are definitely some advertising networks out there that are using very unscrupulous methods. And of course, we've seen recent examples of some ad networks being compromised and actually pushing out malware to web visitors as well. So because ad networks are so prolific, and because they are responding to requests from so many web visitors, they've also become a very juicy target to people who want to push bad stuff out to people.
Yeah, that's shocking. That just makes me angry. But anyway, so I just want to ask you another question then. So with our browsers, in our browser, there's always a setting for "Do Not Track Me." Does that actually work, or can they circumvent that there, Michael?
Essentially, it can be circumvented. I mean, the whole idea of the do not track standard is that you've got a flag which your browser is sending out every time you make a web request. And what the flag, it's basically DNT, the letters DNT and a 1. And that just means that you are declaring to every website that you visit that you don't wish to be tracked. Now, this is a standard that is honoured by the larger, more legitimate advertising networks and also the larger websites, Facebook, Twitter, etc., where they have published policies that will tell you what they will and won't do if you do or don't have the do not track flag set. However, this just has really no effect on any of the sort of black hat sites that are out there that are just going to, gobble up any private information you're willing to disclose and use it in any way they want. So there's really two halves to this. There's having the do not track feature turned on, which I think we should just also all have turned on by default. But there's also this other half where you really need to be aware when you're visiting sites of what the legal terms and conditions are. How are they going to use your information? How long are they going to hang on to it? Are they going to sell it to any third parties? There are these issues that you really need to be aware of as well. There's a whole bunch of tools. We've got one called Web TuneUp, which we've just released, which gives you a really great browser toolbar that allows you to actually have an insight into what those policies are exactly. And that way you can make an informed choice about whether that's a site that you want to be interacting with or not.
So what does that tool do again, Michael? Sorry, it looks at the settings of the page you're visiting?
Well, so what we've done is the AVG team have identified thousands of websites that have published their privacy policies, and our legal team have actually gone over those privacy policies and provided a nice little summary of what each of those companies is doing. So what you can do is install Web TuneUp. You can probably just Google AVG Web TuneUp. And it's a browser plugin that when you view a website, you can click on a little toolbar icon and it will bring up a pop-up and it will show you exactly what that site's privacy policy is and what they will and won't do with your information.
Okay, that's a great tool. Okay, there's another one we'll add to our show notes as well. Now, just one more question before I let you go there. Do we have laws about internet privacy in Australia? I know in France they're pretty stringent on that, about people snooping on you. How are the laws in Australia there, Michael?
There's some changes that are actually due to come into effect at the start of next month, or start of March, I believe, which is some reforms to the Privacy Act in Australia that are really raising the bar for businesses in terms of any privacy breaches that they might incur, where they'll actually be fined. So certainly for businesses in Australia, there are certainly some serious penalties that are going to apply later on this year. There were some other changes that were set to come into effect in May, but I believe with the change of government we had last year, that legislation was kind of pushed aside, and I'm not sure whether that's actually gone through yet. But yeah, there's still a little bit more I think that could be done. But I think at the end of the day, as you know, internet users and consumers, we really need to be able to make those choices ourselves and just use whatever tools we can get our hands on to keep ourselves safe and try not to divulge too much information where we can avoid it.
Is the Labor one, the internet filter, that's dead and buried, isn't it? I haven't heard much more about that.
Yes, that's right. No clean feed was the campaign against that one, and that was under Senator Conroy, and that didn't go through. But what replaced it, or what effectively has been put into place now with all the major ISPs, is a thing called the Interpol Worst of list. So we do have actually our ISPs blocking certain websites based on an Interpol list, which contains what they consider to be the worst of websites, which would contain child pornography and all sorts of nasty stuff. And so there are some level of protection there for us in this country in regards to that. It also having any kind of system like this though inevitably raises concerns of censorship and how we deal with what we consider the internet to be sort of an open and free thing that we should all be able to use equitably. But that's not a discussion I'll get into now. Obviously,
is that list published by any chance, Michael, or is that a secret list, the Interpol list?
Yeah, it's bizarre. It isn't widely published. But I think on Wikipedia I did spot there's some people actually trying to keep track of what sites are on there. But of course the Interpol certainly don't want you to know what's on that list, because it just encourages people to visit those sites regardless if they can to see what sort of content are on there. So I think it's probably best that we don't know what's on the list. Although that obviously brings up concerns of openness and transparency.
Well, look, the way I look at it is, if you can't trust your government, who can you trust, right? I mean, we live in a fairly democratic society, so we're going to have to trust them that they're going to do the right thing by us.
Yeah, it's at some point I think we need to have some level of confidence, but there still needs to be oversight. There still needs to be that having that trust in our government is a tenuous thing. I think it's something that continues to be ongoing.
Yeah. Look, as long as it's not blind faith, that's when you run into some crazy times or some crazy areas. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Look, thanks for your time. Can you just say one more time there, please, Michael?
Say that again.
Can you just give us your website again if people want to find out more information about some of those resources you mentioned earlier during this discussion?
Sure. So our website is www.avg.com.au.
Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for doing one of your first video broadcasts over there. And thanks for smashing some of the shackles of ignorance there, Michael.
Fantastic. I look forward to smashing more shackles next time.
All right. Thanks, mate. Bye for now.
Thanks, Ash.
Hello, and welcome to Tektime.
Tech,
everybody. Welcome to Tech Time, the show based on technology and the people that drive it. My name is Ash, and I'll be your guide on this fantastic journey of discovery and enlightenment as we try and smash the shackles of ignorance and bring technology from the darkness into the light. And I always have my regular pals and panelists on the show here to help me out with some of the cool and funky stuff that's happening on the web. I've got G-Money there in the nerve center of Tech Time Central. You there, G-Money?
Yeah. Here I am.
There you are. Well, in a darkened room too. The cave of technology.
In the dark room.
Yeah, the dark room. And on the other side, we have got Big Nick. Are you there, Big Nick?
I'm here, and I'm always ready.
Okay, well, today we're going to, thanks for coming on, guys. Thanks to you, Nick, as well. I know you just popped in for something that's near and dear to your heart. We're going to be talking about Google's recent acquisition of Nest and Nest Technologies. Now, just for people that haven't caught up with the news, they spent about $3.2 billion, this is Google, on acquiring this, I wouldn't say startup company, but a company that was founded by one of the father of the iPod. And basically what it does, it's a smart thermostat and a couple other smart products as well. But we're going to delve into this, go to the man who's got his finger on the pulse of the thermostat. Don't burn your hands there, Big Nick. And he's going to tell us what exactly happening and how it all came about there. Nick.
Well, it's actually quite interesting, Ash, because, I think you said they have the thermostat and a few other products. They actually only have one other product. So we're talking about a company which was started up probably a couple of years ago now by Tony Fadell, who was known as the godfather of the iPod, ex-Apple, obviously. It's essentially the flagship product is the thermostat, and the thermostat is it's a $250 US thermostat, so it's roughly 10 times the price of a normal thermostat. But what was very sweet about it was it was very much wide to the net. So you've got built-in Wi-Fi, motion sensors. In essence, what the idea behind the thermostat is to essentially to be able to monitor the activity. So, for instance, if you've left the heater on and everyone's left the house, well, this thing automatically knows. It says, hey, I can now wind the heating down or the air conditioning down because the house is now empty. So it was a very clever, very smart technology. In fact, Apple even sold it in the Apple Store, which is also their retail stores, which is obviously huge. They also introduced a smart, again, fully wide smoke detector. So it was Wi-Fi and all the rest of it. And you think, well, and this is, I suppose, what's thrown a lot of people. $3.2 billion, that's a lot of money for essentially a relatively simple product suite. And there's been just a lot of speculation as to why Google would even entertain such a massive investment. And we're not talking $3.2 billion of funny money, shares and options and that sort of stuff. We're talking about $3.2 billion cold hard cash.
In suitcases.
That's a lot of suitcases, Ash. Just think about it. $3.2 billion. That's
a lot of devices. That's a lot of money.
It's clear that there's no way Google will ever recoup that money through the selling of those devices. So that of course opens us to the conspiracy theories. So what's it all about? What is this? And I think, interestingly enough, what this is doing is Google's actually declaring in no uncertain terms that home automation is the next frontier. That is the space that they're going to be targeting. They want to get into your home. They're all over you with their browser and their cookies and their searching. They've got you now with the Android smartphone and the rest. But now they're going to start to, and I think this is what's got a lot of people worried, is that it's going to basically literally use this technology to, in essence, basically get a feel for people's behaviors and activities and start pointing advertising and things like that based on your habits and so on, because all this information is essentially one big data mine. They'll be able to, this is almost some people see this as a bit of a big brother play. I personally see it as as Google saying, home automation is where we believe we can really leverage our technology and add some value. So it's going to be interesting to see where it all ends up.
Yeah. Well, look, just That's a great point, Nick. I just want to wind it back, though. So this thermostats isn't new technology. Obviously, it's old technology. And smart thermostats isn't new as well, right? All Nest is doing is taking regular appliances and jazzing them up, making them smarter, okay? So what this thermostat does that the others don't do as well, again, that's the key point as well, is this is a learning thermostat. So it learns your patterns, learns your routine. So you might have to adjust it every now and then, but as you're doing that, it'll get smarter and smarter and know exactly what you're doing. So you won't have to come home and turn the temperature up to 25 degrees on Monday or Thursday. It'll just know automatically. Okay, and it knows when you leave the house, drop the temperature down to 25. And one key point, what this actual thermostat does, that Nest does, it's got an app, right? And everybody loves apps. So you can do that all from your office. You can say, I'm coming home shortly, pump it up to 25, 26, or whatever you want to. And as time goes along, you won't even have to tell it via the app anymore. Is that correct, Nick?
That's right. I mean, this is the key thing. I mean, we've got this ability to, to source all this data. And of course, there's a smart app, either iPhone or Android, that allows you to get access to this information. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. You can jump in your car and realize, well, hold on, did I not turn the temperature down? Well, geez, I better turn the temperature off. Or I'm coming home 2 hours early, so rather than switch on at 5:30, 6 o'clock, I'm going to have I'll fire up the heater half an hour before I get home, so the house is nice and cozy. So there's all this, very handy technology that comes with the Nest. And look, the other thing too, being very Apple-esque, Tony Fadell, as a designer, has made something that's very, essentially a thermostat's been a very boring, mundane appliance, and he's actually turned it into something that actually looks quite nifty. It's got, it's been well made. It's got clean lines. They've thrown a lot of technology into it in terms of, motion sensors. So it's not just saying, okay, we know your habits and we're learning, what temperatures you like and don't like, but it's also getting an idea of, hey, the heater's on and there's no one in the room.
Just a question to you, G-Money, and I'll let you answer this as well there, Big Nick. Is this Google's first foray into the connected household?
Well, I think that they're trying to build up the AI component, because we're trying to get into the whole anticipatory household, So as you walk in the door, it knows it's 6 p.m. because you have your phone. It knows you're home. So your location's sending it to the back to the mother station. And maybe you come home and then your wife comes home and then oh, well, you're both home. So maybe it's and it's 6 p.m. Maybe it's dinner time. Do you want me to order dinner, or have you already prepared it? That sort of thing.
This is very Jetsons-like, isn't it? For all those that have seen the cartoon, the Jetsons, where they were doing this stuff, during the 50s and 60s. But we won't digress. So your answer to that question, is this Google's first step towards the connected home, Big Nick?
Oh, look, there's absolutely no question of it. I mean, as a company that makes a couple devices, it's not worth $3.2 billion. And that's very obvious. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. The key thing is they're getting a very, very hands-on, very clever designer in Tony Fadell, and that's obviously a very important, obviously, for Google for the long term in terms of the design of other products. But clearly what this does is gives them an instant entree into home automation. And clearly that is an area where Google feels that they can actually create some market and leverage it. So without doubt, there's this. I would have thought $2.5 billion, or if not $3 billion of the price was all about just buying a foothold into a future space called home automation. There's no question of that.
And look, and they could be driving the industry now instead of just being a follower, like they were behind with the Android platform and going to smartphones later as well. They are actually now carving out a niche market and goes, this is going to be hot, guys. And you can just see everybody else trying to play catch up and then being the trendsetters for a change.
Yeah. I mean, if you take a leaf out of Apple's book, their playbook is all about taking a technology that's basically, dysfunctional or mundane and really making it elegant and simple to use and actually, and have some functionality. So this is very much an Apple-esque approach, but in essence, it's actually doing it for a new market as opposed to a pre-existing market where they're just buying into. So I think from a Google point of view, I think it's an excellent play. There's no question of it.
Yeah. G-Money, and just one to you. What are your concerns? I know there's been, as Nick touched on earlier of this discussion about privacy. Do you have any concerns about privacy at all and having Google having this information about you?
Well, I think they already have a lot of information about you already. I mean, this is nothing new. You give it to them. The telephone providers. They all know everything about you. This is, I guess, in a way, sort of aggregating everything together and trying to build a like I think Nick might mentioned before, like sort of a crowdsource information. That's going to help, I guess, AI in the future. So, yeah, your information's out there. It's being kept by other people. I mean, you could possibly collect your own information, maybe if they had a little household server, but then they would only know about just you. So, how smart that AI would ever be,
Yeah, what Nick touched on as well. This is a little toe in the water sort of thing. Yeah, you can see where this is going. If the whole house is connected, your fridge knows about it. Your washing machine knows about it. Your toaster knows all about it. You know what I mean? So it's going to grow. I mean, this is also initial steps, right? Initial steps. And it said if you have a connected home, that is a lot of information. I just want to touch on a point that you mentioned there. Said we give the information to them. Isn't it the other way around? They take the information from us.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, there's an old saying. I mean, when the smartphone revolution took off, everyone was scratching their head saying, "All these free apps, how do people make money?" And and I always remember the analogy of, if it's free, the reality is you're the product.
There's nothing free. There's no free lunch.
so
AVG is free. G-Money, what are you talking about?
So what I mean by that is the fact that they're giving you something, inverted commas, for free. Means there's got to be something in it for them. And in essence, it's the information that you're providing them, which, as you said rightfully, Ash, that they take. Be it habits from the internet, or in this instance, whether or not you're at home all day and therefore have a high energy bill than other people, whether you're a really bad cook because the smoke alarm keeps on going out, or every Wednesday you seem to have a smoke alarm going, which means you must be doing steaks on Thursday, and all of a sudden you're starting advertising about steaks or new range hoods or cooking lessons. So you can just see where this is going to go. You're going to have you're going to be feeding, without in no uncertain terms, the mothership, as you said, and that will actually be used to actually point advertising towards you. There's no way Google's going to recoup 3.2 billion from a couple of devices. It's the information that they're sourcing or getting, taking, choose your words, as well as the fact that. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, that's right. But look, Google has come out and said that they will not share their privacy with anybody else. So they've come out and made that statement. But I mean, Google has a history of using one information they got from you, from one app to another app to another app, to improve the functionality. And that's the thing a lot of people are concerned about. Yes, they might pull it out for this one, but they might use it for another app further down the track. And once they've got that data about you, it's not like they're going to go and get rid of it. No, they're going to keep that data and analyze it and crunch it and get some value out of it. That's why you keep it.
It's going to be like how Siri is.
The key point, I think there's some key phrasing there. I mean, they're not going to sell your information is private. They're not going to infringe on the privacy side of things. But it doesn't mean they're not going to take information, that they're not going to be able to monitor behaviors and habits of a household. I mean, you'll be anonymous. That's not, if you're anonymous, then it's not a breach of privacy, and that's what they mean by that. There's no question they'll be taking data, and there's no question they'll be using data, and there's no question to me that they'll be selling the data. But they won't necessarily say this is the the behaviour and habits of Ash from Tektime or G-Money.
Yeah. You got any thoughts on that, G-Money?
Well, I think it's similar to how Siri works too. I mean, Siri wouldn't, and all these voice recognition stuff wouldn't be as good as it is. Well, I think it's pretty good. But it wouldn't be as good as if it didn't collect all that information and put two and two together. I use it all the time, and I'm actually quite impressed on how well it behaves. And I believe this is sort of the same step. Naturally Dragon, I think, initially started
Naturally Speaking,
and actually a lot of these guys are actually tapping their massive database. And the reason why all that stuff works is because when people were using Naturally Speaking, all those words was actually being sent to a master, database somewhere, and that's how it somehow starts to recognize words better and quicker, and so you have all that information. So Google's kind of doing this thing with AI, or at least with Nest, and taking this opportunity to gather all that information and possibly do something good with it. Their whole mantra is do no wrong and whatever. Don't do evil.
Do no
stuff.
evil. Yeah.
Do no evil sort of thing. So that's their mantra. You could believe it or what, but that's what it is.
Yeah, but they're not accountable. That's the thing, G-Money. They're not accountable. Governments are accountable. Companies are very rarely accountable.
Then you don't put these in your house.
Yeah, that's the best one ever.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Sorry, if you're watching a show like this, you are actually not concerned. You want to be made aware that a lot of people just go, "Oh, I can control this via my phone," and you don't think about the bigger picture.
Yeah. So you have everything like that to be, to consider. You're using your phone, your smartphone. It's smartphone, so that's what it's called, a smartphone. So it's gathering all your information and putting it out there. So that's how it works. I mean, imagine back in the days when we had PDAs, those weren't smart and they were pretty lousy, and that failed. So if you look at today's smartphone, the way it works is, why it's so, I guess, sophisticated is due to all the heavy data collection that's going on, really.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it with nuance and actually speaking or dragging dictation. By virtue of them having a product, they were able to actually collect a huge amount of data, which they could then fine-tune their algorithms for determining speech. So, one feeds the other, and that's part of what AI and the technology advancement is all about.
Yeah.
You need the data. If you haven't got the data, you can't actually go forward.
Yeah, I mean, they collected all that information, and then now, I guess the internet's basically, and all the high-end computing now has reduced all those cycles of analysis, so we're able to get a lot of good information from that today.
Yeah. So look, just if I know we can get caught up on this one. So just a quick sum up there. Actually, before I sum up, I just want to add a little point here. Did you guys know that Google is heading up the Open Automotive Alliance in America, which includes all the big automakers around the world? And what it looks like what they're trying to do is trying to get their operating systems in all the dashboards of all the new cars coming out. So there's another thing where it's all connected. Your car's connected, your phone's connected, and now your house is connected. All one seamless, one version of the truth.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's they're really just following in from what Apple did with the latest iOS. The one thing Apple did about 9 months ago, back I think in June last year, was announced iOS for the car. And that's exactly what this is about. This is the Android version of iOS in the car. And you'll start to see, probably middle of this year, you'll start to see the first of those initiatives rolling out. So there's no question that it's all about taking a mundane technology that works or barely works or is difficult to keep maintained, and just simplifying it and making it elegant. I mean, a classic example is a car. I mean, a car has quite a lot of computing power, quite a lot of sophistication, but it doesn't get regular updates.
No. In fact, I went to the dealer last week to inquire about updating the GPS, and guess how much they wanted to charge for? Like $400.
Well, and why would you bother? Yeah.
No, and then I just I used my Google Maps on my phone. It's a lot better, I guess, Well,
that was to update your map pack, was it, G-Money?
Yeah, and I said, well, how much does it cost? I said, oh, well, let me look it up. And I said, to update the head unit would cost about $390 something. I said, no.
No. Pass.
No. Just do the oil change.
Yeah, that's 400, thanks.
Exactly. No, but it makes sense. Then if you put stuff like Android and whatnot, iOS into a car, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I think it's actually a very logical progression. And again, it comes back to that point. You buy a car now with the hi-fi and all the, the controls that come with it. And that's it. They're fixed for life. Whereas now you can have your GPS, you can have apps that monitor different behaviors in the car. You can update those apps. And the other thing, too, which we'll start to see a lot more of, is Wi-Fi in the car, where you actually have a dedicated network
Car-Fi, I
connection
think they
in the
call it.
car.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah, well,
something.
I mean, if you guys looked at CES, I know you followed it pretty closely there, G-Money. I mean, there was a lot of stuff about personal networks and car networks and getting your heart monitored and getting apps and getting your bed that knows when you're sleeping and how you roll and all this sort of stuff, all about you, you know what I mean? All getting data about you and bringing it online and bringing it centrally. And this is just another way of where you can start with the thermostat, but it can grow. And if you're built or buying into the same OS, which is all Android, all the information gets centralized and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's all about you.
It's all trying to build this command
Profile.
central, you know, so
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
I mean, they say it's for you, but then obviously it benefits everybody else in a sense, I guess.
Yeah. All right, final thoughts there, Big Nick. Nest winner or loser? Or somewhere in
There's
between?
no question, Nest was a big winner. Whether or not Google's a winner as a result of paying 3.2 billion of hard cash, that one remains to be seen. But look, I think it just fired the first shot in home automation in a massive way. I wouldn't say probably fired the first shot. They probably dropped the first nuke in home automation. But gee, I tell you, if they keep spending like that, they'll be running out of money pretty quickly, I would have thought. So they're going to have to find a way of recouping some of that investment because that's a big spend.
Yeah. For a company that's got two products.
Two products, a $250 thermostat and a $129 smoke detector. Interestingly enough, and as not a side point as much, but immediately after the announcement, someone went away and basically built literally a prototype Nest for about $20. And I just thought that was fascinating.
Well, yeah, that's
I'm talking exactly what Nest does. So Wi-Fi, motion sensors, the whole box and dice, with an app, also with a computer on board, which then talks to smartphones and has its own memory, has its own CPU, the whole box and dice.
Jeez. How much did you get? 3.4 billion or?
Well, they paid 3.2 billion, and these guys paid under $20 or something, $25. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't elegant, it wasn't a beautiful piece of hardware, but it just goes to show that there are a lot cheaper options. If this is actually serious, then there'll be a lot of players coming into it, and to some extent, it's a little bit like the music player. In the early days, there was lots of those very nasty USB music players, which were just horrible, and they were ubiquitous. And out of nowhere came this thing called iPod, and iPod was elegant and it just worked beautifully. So, to a large extent, people. I was one of them thinking, why bother with an iPod? It's why is Apple going down this road? And it relaunched them. So, there is some logic to it. I think they've, Google's smart. And last but not least, we mustn't underestimate. There might be a significant pipeline there that we just don't know about yet that hasn't been announced. And there could be some very exciting things there which could make that 3.2 being justified. It remains to be seen.
Yeah. G-Money, your thoughts? Winner, loser, somewhere in between?
Well, I think it's definitely sending a message to anybody who's in the AI industry and who's sitting on something that, that's how much your company could be worth. So definitely sends a...
What are you trying to say, G-Money? You got something hidden there.
Yeah, I think we're going to put a little home AI going on. But definitely sends a message out there, and I think we're just at the start of things, of seeing where these things will go. It hasn't hit across Australia so much. I mean, it's definitely more of a U.S. product than it is here. And there's lots of things that we're probably not ready for. We have a lot of older homes that don't have really great heating systems anyway. So the adding of this kind of thermostat into your system probably isn't worth it. Honestly, you'd be looking at any new homes maybe. But it's a start. So we'll see what happens.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for popping in there, Big Nick. We always appreciate your in-depth and surgical-like precision on going into the details of any topic. And that was a good one for Nest. Appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure.
And G-Money, we'll see you after the break.
I'll see you then.
Hello, and welcome to Tektime.
everybody. Welcome to Tech Time, the greatest tech show in the galaxy. And if you've just joined us, well, you've missed it. You've missed the entire show. We had, starting from the back, we had Big Nick on the show talking about Nest TV. We had Michael McKinnon from AVG talking about privacy on the internet. And then we had G-Money and ZomBE talking about 4K televisions and how they're going to affect us, whether it's a fad or a failure or both. Or will it be a striking success? We don't know. We'll let you guys make your mind up. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week, the same bat time, same bat station. And don't forget, wherever you go, there you are.